We're here today to understand and to remember the past and to honor certain people through our remembrance. We look back today to specific events in World War II and the experiences of prisoners of war, the Japanese, and specifically to reflect upon some of the most torturous times endured by these prisoners aboard POW carrying Hellships. Present among us in the tour that we brought through Valor Tours to the Philippines, and we're within now a few days of the completion of that, with this as one of the focuses of our time here, are over 20 descendants of those who lost fathers, grandfathers, uncles, granduncles, brothers, in either the Hellships or one of the POW camps here in the Philippines or in Japan. The intent at the time for the Japanese was to move these men north with the purpose, early in the war, of performing forced labor in Japanese mines, docks, and factories. Later, there were other reasons when the intent was to remove the prisoners before they could be rescued. The ship holds were then generally empty as incoming Japanese ships were bringing Army reinforcements to defend the Philippines, their conquered land at the time, and other areas. It was a fairly easy measure to cram men into these holes. The prisoners endured many weeks within darkened, stifling hot, sometimes unbearably cold ship holds. Food was minimal. Water was often withheld, and there was a lack of medical facilities of almost any kind. And in many cases, the brutal treatment by guards caused many to die within the barren and grossly overcrowded holds. Later, some survivors described the conditions aboard for them as often more difficult than even the inhumanity experienced earlier on the Bataan Death March, not really very far from our location today. An example of some of this was a time in 1944 when the Ofuku Maru left Singapore in July with 1,287 prisoners of war, mainly British and Dutch, headed to Japan. The ship stopped in Manila, but when she sailed north on the 21st of September, the situation changed. It was on that day that the first American aircraft, in this case off American carriers east of the Philippines about 150 miles, were seen by our men at then Cabanatuan and Bilibid when they could look through the shutters. They didn't recognize the airplanes. They had markings different. They were different airplanes. But the result of that movement of airplanes on the 21st of September, when they were en route to attack Japanese airfields on Luzon and ships in the area, meant that this Hellship was struck. She was hit and sunk off the west coast of Luzon with over 1,000 POWs going down with the ship. Over 200 survivors got ashore and were taken to Bilibid prison in Manila, then Cabanatuan camp, where they told the American POWs, primarily Americans, then waiting for their departure. This is an important point because it told our fathers, our uncles, our grandfathers, and so on, what most probably would happen to them under those circumstances of those dates in 1944. Those waiting in Bilibid and Cabanatuan at this time knew their chances of surviving similar attacks were low. Notes and letters left by the departing men made this very clear. One note later found dated late 1944 said, "Everyone is apprehensive, for it is believed that American planes and subs patrol all the Philippine waters and that a majority of the boats leaving here are sunk. Another POW buried his notes, writing, "I'm going to bury this and hope someone gets it who doesn't have to go." Another left his notes with a friend and wrote of the alternatives of a longer prison stay if sent to Japan, or having the ship sunk by our own torpedo or bomb. Yet another, who went out on the Orioka Maru, nearby as we know, placed his notes in a bottle and buried them under the Bahay, asking in his note for his family to pay a reward to the one who might find and return the notes to the family. The notes survived, but Frank Conady did not. Other survivors I later came to know told me of the notes that they left in bottles and cans, hoping that someone could pass their final notes, thoughts, to their families. On 21 October 1944, after the Arizona Maru left Manila days earlier with almost 2,000 POWs, she was sunk by an American submarine. Most got safely into the water, none were picked up at that time, and all but 8 survived. All but 8 died. These outside attacks made on unidentified ships which were carrying POWs in the war zone, forbidden by conventional international agreements in the handling of POWs, were not the only cause for the loss of life of thousands of men. There were among these POWs on these ships the loss of perhaps 20,000 men of all nationalities over the Southwest Asian area through the Philippines and the South China Sea to Japan. This included about 4,000 Americans. Within those present at this memorial dedication upon the now peaceful shores of Subic Bay are both surviving members of those who were previously POWs, these 4 gentlemen in the front row here, but also these 20 sons and daughters, grandsons, uncles, nephews, and so on that we mentioned earlier. Together with those who were lost and those who were survived, we do remember. Remember those who died and those who survived.